All right, and we're back. It was a big honking branch, that big thud, on the neighbor's tree. About that big around, and I'd say a good 7 feet long. So I snagged it. I pulled it over here, cut it off, put some glue on the ends. That is going to be an awesome walking stick. Yeah, I know it's that big around, right? Yeah. Well, by the time I get done, it'll be that big around. But hopefully, it'll have a snake wrapped around it going all the way up. Rich over there at Choose Your Own Path is getting ready to carve one for one of his subs. And he's going to video it for us. So we'll get a tutorial out of it, I hope. We'll have to see how that all pans out. And if we can learn how to do it, we're going to make one here too. While we're waiting for our cable to cool down, this is our star. Okay. Now, when I draw my stars out, I always start with a box. Square. You want to make it as square as as you can get it. Now, I just freehanded it, but you can use a ruler. After I draw the square, always make sure you put your center lines in, because you're going to need them. Put your center lines in here, here, and then down the side too, down here on the star. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take a knife and we're going to carve this top back to that point and this side back to that point and all the way around like that. And then we're going to do some 45ing to the center this way. That's why you need that line. We're going to 45 these back. So you're going to end up with a point. They're going to be pretty pointy depending on how pointy you want to make them. Now you got to orientate it so you know which is going to be the top. So I know this is going to be my top because each one of these are 1.5 millimeters long. 1.5 millimeters. This one is two and a little bit because I want that long tail. I do not know why the camera shut off. Don't know. Anyway, there's a failure. So I'll be right back. I gotta go up to the bandsaw and cut another star. But fortunately, I've got this star. So all I gotta do is take my pencil and trace it. So we're good. Be back. Alright, we're back. Me and the mistress were having a argument. Nope, not my wife, my bandsaw. She calls it the mistress because I spend so much time playing with that bandsaw. But that's a different story. We won't get into that here. Okay, so now this is basswood. The star is not as perfect as it once was because the bandsaw was arguing with me. It's like, no, it's too cold. I don't want to. I'm like, yes, but I need this. When things get cold and my wood shop, which is a real wood shop, not a carving shop, a wood shop, gets cold, the machines get cold, and sometimes they just get a little cranky. So you gotta fire up the torpedo heater and heat them up a little bit, get them going. Now, remember, keep your fingers out of the way. If you're using a knife or a dremel on something this small, make sure you know where your fingers are at all times. Never let your fingers leave the ride, because it is painful. I had a friend, well, he's passed away now, but I had a friend, Jerry. It seemed like every time he used his table saw, he would slice a piece of finger off. One day I went over there and he's like, yep, did it to me again. and he had this big wad of towels wrapped around his finger. He sliced his finger on his table saw, which is, oh boy, much wider blade. So when you take meat out with a table saw, you're going to have a much pointier finger. And he sliced his finger all the way down to the first knuckle. And did he go to the doctor? No, he didn't go to the doctor. I went over there and he had this, we were going to go fishing, and he had this big rag wrapped around his finger with duct tape on it. I'm like, Jerry, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I split my finger in half. And then he peeled it off there and it just flopped open like a banana. I'm like, oh my God. So, yeah, but he kept his finger, but that index finger was, I don't even know how he got his finger in it, but much pointier. But you know, it almost cost him a finger, but after that, every time I went over there, he had 3 or 4 push sticks laying on that table saw. But that wasn't the first time that he had almost took a digit right off. Now all this can be done with a Dremel. Might be a little more interesting to do it with a Dremel. But I like this because I got a little more control over this knife. You know, that Dremel, you got that baby cranked up and she's got a lot of power going. See, I keep that index finger under that piece. I do not want to put a big slice in my finger. I have done that so many times that my fingertips, especially the thumbs, are almost numb. I think I've severed that many nerves in them. Okay, paring cut. Keep your thumb out of the way. And see, you can't get to your thumb because you're not using your wrist. You're using your hand to draw that knife towards you. See? Just like that. You want to start off at the top of the box. You want to pull it down to that center line right there. Use carving gloves if you have them. Use those cut resistant gloves. I'm not using it because if I was using a carving glove right now, you wouldn't be able to see what I was doing. Okay, that's one point. Now we know this is I made the point a little bit longer this time. So it's a little more distinct so I know where my top is. Now, you can see how that cuts different because the grain on this goes up and down. Okay. Pretty sure that's the way it's going. Nope, it's going this way. It's going sideways. So, when you're doing this, going sideways, you have to be a little more careful because you're cutting cross grain. See how that just chipped off in there? You're cutting cross grain. Ideally, you want your grain to be running up and down all the time whenever you're carving something, ideally. But this is the piece of scrap that I grabbed. So this is what we're going to deal with. When you're cutting cross grain, you just want to kind of take it easy with it. Lighter cuts. If you get going gung-ho, well, you seen what happened to that little piece of cedar. Popped right off from there. And it popped off in a bad way. It wasn't where we could save the point. Ah, it's cold. I hate being sick. And actually, probably nobody enjoys being sick. But I'm outside a lot. And when you get sick, you can't go outside, and it kind of bums me out because I like being outside. Even though I'm in a building here, usually when I'm outside, I'm out in the woods or doing something. Okay, one more point to go. Another one of these cross grain cuts. Be careful, because you chip your end right off. Just gotta bring this side down a little bit more. Yep, we're still on camera. I gotta watch it because what happens, I end up rolling my chair back and back and back, and then I'm out of frame. And then I get people saying, hey, you're out of frame. And unless I look up to see where the frame is on the camera, I don't know. And it's like people can't tell me because the comments won't come up till after the video is posted, and by that time it's too late. Okay, now you see what we did? Now you can stop right there. That's a pretty awesome start right there. But we're going to take it further. We are now, keep your thumb out of the way. Remember them center lines I was telling you about? Okay, let's put these center lines back in, just so I can show you. Yeah, that's real straight. They're up. Real straight. Yep. Straight if it was a snake with arthritis. Okay. And you want to put them in on both sides, because you're going to need them. Well, maybe not. Depends on how good you are with your line of sight. Oh. Okay. Now the reason why we need those lines in, because we're going to do the same thing that we did here, except we're going to do it on there. Okay. So we're going to make what's called the stop cut. Go in the corner, push down, nice and light. You don't need to go crazy with it. Now you see you got your line here and your line here. So you want to remove the material between the two lines. So you just paring cut, and do not depend on your wood to stop that knife, because it could shear that right off like nobody's business. So don't think just because you got a little piece of wood between your fingers and that blade that you're okay. See? Nice and careful, because now we're going cross grain again. So make that little stop cut, and then now see, whenever you go across against the grain, that blade is really going to want to dig in. So actually you should be going this way, but you know, it can't get into that corner. And that's the only problem if you decide to use a dremel to do this, which you can, but you're going to have, in your corners, you're going to have that little round from whatever tool you decide you're going to use. You're going to have that little round thing in there. Almost whistled, Glenn. Almost went like that, but nope, we didn't do that. See how much easier that cuts when you're going the right way? Yep, that's going to be a booger. So what the object is going to be here, and the big reason for the center lines is you're going to drag this cut basically all the way to the center. So the arms of your star all intersect in the middle. And once you hit that center line, don't go any further that way. If you're still not at your center line here, just bring it down. Like that. See, we're getting close. And of course, it all depends on how pointy you want it, you know. Like I said, that's a perfectly fine looking star without doing this. And I'm sure there's some special name for that kind of star, but I don't know what it is. Tetrahedron, I don't know. Some fancy word that gets used once in a century, or almost never by a guy like me. Okay, this is our long tail here. Let's see how this is going to come out. Oh, got a lot of grab there. I think we're going the wrong way. Stop cut. And doing these little things like this will really improve your knife control. If you use a knife. If you're using a Dremel, like we did with that tree, light pressure. If you give it too much, you know, trying to hang on to this little guy, you may want to do like we did with the little girl's cookie. If you've watched that, when you cut your star out, don't cut this one out. Just leave it straight. Leave it hooked to a bigger block of wood. It gives you a whole lot more control. Not a little, a whole lot more control. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't you do that? I don't know. Because it's cold and rainy and the bandsaw is giving me a fit. Okay. We're gonna do the same thing to this side. You see that? My thumb's in the way. Get that thumb out of the way. See, this one is just going to fight because of the grain of the wood. See, much easier this way. There again. Keep your thumb low and use your fingers to drag the knife. Do not use your wrist. But that's just my opinion. Somebody else might say, oh, I use my wrist. I cut with my wrist. I do not. I just try, because at this, see, I can't hurt myself this way, dragging it this way. I can't. I'd have to put my thumb right up there in the way of that blade. Using my wrist, you know, you're making kind of a wild swing there. In my opinion. I'm sure you guys, or some of you out there, it's like, you're full of crap. I do it all the time. Okay, if you do it all the time and you don't get hurt, that's the way you do it. This is the way I do it. And I'm not saying my way is the right way. You know, believe me, I've hurt myself plenty of times. And we're just going to work around this and around this and around this. Same cuts. Just keep going. I don't know how long this video is getting. I don't want to take 3 hours to load it. That's been the problem. My internet was messed up. The guy came and fixed it today. Well, we'll see if he fixed it today. You know. After we get done shooting this video, we will attempt to do the download. And we'll see how that goes. There's my center line. There's my center line. So I have to drop my blade, and that's just getting too hard right there. So back out, take a smaller bite. And you can see how that blade is digging in there. That means I am going the wrong way with that blade, but what are you gonna do? That's the one thing, nice thing about Dremel. It don't care. If it's going against the grain, with the grain, it don't care. It just goes, which is awesome. Now, once you get all these angle cuts done, you can always go back and shave your points off and make it a round, make these round. But I did that on one a while back, and I thought it looked too much like a starfish. This is a cut you really don't want to have to make. I hate pulling the knife towards myself, just because anything can happen, especially with soft woods. But believe me, that Dremel's bit me a couple times. Getting hurt is no fun, whether it's with a knife or with a Dremel, with a butter knife, with a peanut. Oh, yeah. Peanuts can hurt you, man. You ever hear shell shock from peanuts? No, I'm just kidding. I was down in South Carolina, and me and a bunch of friends were out having some fun, and there's a roadside stand. They sold peanuts. So of course, you buy a bag of peanuts, and we were in a Jeep eating peanuts. And the wind caught that bag just right and flipped them peanuts up in the air. The empty shells. And the dude driving got a peanut shell right in the eye. Was not a good time. Had to go to the doctor's, or the urgent care center down there. And there was actually a piece of that peanut, the fiber of the peanut got stuck. Right in his eye, stuck. They had to go in there with this weird vibrating needle thing, and they put these eye drops in. I think they were cocaine eye drops or something. And they got it out. They got the peanut shell out. And it had scratched his eye. So he had to run around for, I don't know, a couple days with a patch on. Hired Jim, terror of the CJ5. Okay, see that? See how he's coming out? Getting all pointy and shaped. And you just keep dragging that line. And if your lines are good, what should happen is that all the points should meet in the middle. I don't know, because the bandsaw was giving me fits. I don't know how good this one's going to come out with all the points meeting like that. Remember to make that stop cut there. And as you're carving, you know, you can adjust your cuts. To, you know, kind of force them to the center. I know we've been jumping around on this a bit, but you kind of want to get all your points shaped. See, I still got to do the back side yet. There's still 2 points there that aren't, but you can work on one side. See, now it's getting small enough. I was in an accident some years back and did some heavy damage to my neck and lower back, and so I lose sensation in my hands, and I'll start dropping stuff all over the place. At that point, I usually stop carving for the day. It has a lot to do with activity and sitting. I've got more titanium in my neck than the USS Enterprise. So when it gets cold out, it affects it. When it gets hot out, it affects it. And not so much with the hot, but the cold, like today. If I go outside and like I got to work on a car, I have to wear a scarf because that titanium that's in my neck will get cold. And my doctor said, I told him about it, and he goes, well, normally it doesn't affect, but where your injury was is real close to the skin. It's actually the bone in the spinal column. So it may affect you, and it does. Okay, star's coming along. I imagine you guys are getting bored to tears by now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video. I'll finish this up when it's done. This will be done, and the needles will be put on to the tree. All right.